What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. I am Kevin Cotillo. Sal Lito is here. Steve Marcus is here. What's going on, fellas?
Hello.
What is up?
Listen, I will tell you, we usually have a little bit of time before the show where we chat a little bit. We catch up on our lives, personal lives for one. We like to chat with each other from time to time, or at least you guys like to chat with each other. I just really listen because you guys don't like me, I don't like you. But other than that, it's nice. And then we talk about the show a little bit. We usually do that for a while. But tonight, honestly, we couldn't do it. We had to stop. We had to get right into the episode because it is clear that Steve is a miserable prick tonight. And, I like it because we were going to ask him. I was going to ask him about his most recent falafel loss. And for those of you who have been longtime listeners to this program, you know that there is nothing that gets Steve more worked up than losing in falafel, and he does it with just an absurd regularity. So, Steve, how was your weekend?
Well, I was going up against someone that was tied for first place in falafel, and I came into
the league, by the way, coming into this week.
Yeah, just about. Actually, there is quite a few teams in falafel that are a game within first place right now. So it's pretty fun to see that. But you know what? I'm in 15th place. All right. And I was going up against a good team. And yet again, I was screwed. My team let me down. Came up short. I got a 0 from Traquan Smith. That was nice.
That hurts a little.
Second week in a row where I get less than 8 points from my quarterback, Andy Dalton, 6.9 points against New Orleans. That was awesome. Jordan Howard, 3.7 points. That was also fun. And it was just rough all around. And I lost yet again. So 15th place, fighting. And I'm in the top half of scoring in the entire league. And there I sit all the way at the bottom. All the way at the bottom of the standings. And I've got I think I've got another matchup from somebody that is in the top half of the league, KS44. Although he doesn't have any wide receivers to play against me. If you look at his team, his starting wide receivers right now, the only possible ones he could start are Marvin Jones and Cooper Kupp. So I don't know what he's going to do about that.
That's that's not great, but it's also not bad. I won this week starting Goodwin and John Ross. So
there is no way you should have won your week. It's just absolutely embarrassing.
I won by over 20-something points.
But you can start them again this next week. Neither one of these other guys are going to be playing next week.
Yeah. The Cowboys on a bye? Oh, you said Cooper Kupp. I thought you said Amari Cooper.
Yes.
That's definitely damaging. Kevin, who has the most points scored in falafel?
I'm looking at it currently, and that would be Rob Schwartz.
That's who just beat me by 3 points.
Yes. And, Steve, if you had won, do you know who would be residing in first place right now?
Is it
if you would somehow beat him and gotten those 3 extra points, do you know who would have been in first place?
Is it you?
That is correct.
All I would have had to do was start Dede Westbrook over Traquan Smith, and I would have won.
Yeah, but who makes that decision? You can't fault yourself for that, right? It's just the way it is for you.
I don't.
No, I am going to blame myself. I take it very hard.
So basically, we have. So the correct answer is actually Corey Crummett leads the league.
Oh yes, he does. That's correct. I forgot you weren't saying first place, right?
But tied for first place, there are 3 people tied for first place, and 2 of them are currently on the show with Steve.
That's right.
That's fair.
That is factually correct. And the 2 that are second and third in that list actually are within 6 points of each other.
That's right. Kevin has tried to emulate me since day one. It's clear here as well.
Well, that's it for the Steve dumping on himself portion of the show, or at least the
just for the first part.
Yeah, the first part of the Steve dumping on himself show. But I guess the big news of the day that we have to start off the podcast with is as of 4 p.m. today, Le'Veon Bell is not playing football this year. So, Steve, we'll start with you.
Yep.
What's your reaction? And do you have him anywhere? Like, are you angry? I saw some angry Matthew Berry posts.
I think that's Matthew's new thing.
Yeah.
He rants.
That's good.
Stuff.
It gets the people going.
Pretty sure people going. From me.
People like
he stole. You should tell him that's Sal. I mean, you guys are buddies. You're close.
Yeah. The next time you guys talk,
call him up. Tell him he's stealing your bit. But honestly, Steve, Le'Veon Bell, I'll give you my thoughts on this first as far as the money aspect of it, right? I think he's an idiot. I think he's absolutely dumb. I think the second that Todd Gurley signed his big contract, that was the market, and he knew what it was. Trying to get anything more than that was crazy, and he wasn't going to get that at that far along where he was anyway. What he should have done was held out through camp, maybe miss a game, whatever, taken the $14 million that he was due this season, got himself an insurance policy to cover maybe, say, another $20 million or so in case he got hurt, and worry about next year and just try to have a good year. I mean, I think he only did himself harm, and now going into next season, as far as the money is concerned, I don't see where he gets paid a whole lot, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it depends, because there are a lot of teams that have money to spend, and that, like the Indianapolis Colts, who have a nice young offensive line. They've got Andrew Luck locked up in a contract. They could use a star running back like Le'Veon Bell.
You mean Marlon Mack?
No. Please, come on. Anywho, they could use a guy like Le'Veon Bell, and he could end up getting a good contract with a lot of guaranteed money. And I don't think we can write it off just yet. Yeah, it looks dumb right now. Yes, he forfeited $14 million to play this year, but until everything's said and done, I'm not going to put too much, emphasis on it. I think that he made his choice. He, did what he thought he needed to do. I don't really care either way, honestly. And I really don't. I have him in one spot. I acquired him in a season-long league. I do have him in best ball leagues, and all those teams obviously are hurting by this point, 10 weeks into the season. So that is what it is there. But in terms of fantasy, he's been gone this entire time. So either your team has found a way to get by that at this point, or you're already sunk so far that it's not going to matter either way anyway. So I think that until what happens in free agency next year, we're not going to know how this is all, who was right either way.
I saw a tweet that Evan Silva put out, and this was, a little over an hour ago, actually. And it says, the best bet is Le'Veon gets a 1-year commitment disguised as a 3-year deal in a $45 to $50 million max range in March. Heavy on incentives and per game roster bonuses, low on guarantees. Teams must weigh in his suspension and injury history and the replaceable position factor, spending full season away from the game. So I think that was something I think, Kevin, you might have been hinting along those lines that, he has had the injuries. He has had the suspension. Clearly, James Conner has proved he's replaceable in the Steelers offense. I was going to actually bring this up, the Steelers in general, and going over where each guy in the Steelers offense ranks this season. Ben Roethlisberger had one of his better seasons in recent memory, is number 5 overall in fantasy. Only one other quarterback who's played in just 9 games has more passing yards than him. That's Matt Ryan. Mahomes and Goff are ahead of him, but they both played 1 extra game. Conner himself ranks as the number 3rd overall running back. Antonio Brown, the number 6 wide receiver. Juju Smith, the number 13 wide receiver. And Vance McDonald is a tight end 1 on the season, coming in right at number 12. The entire offense has continued to flourish without him. And, while I did support him and did believe that he was a player who deserved to get paid, this is blown up in his face in a way I don't think it's ever done for another player that I've ever seen in maybe sports.
Yeah, I mean, when you can have a solid and very efficient running back in Stephen Ridley only making $630,000, I mean, why would you pay anyone millions of dollars?
Oh my gosh.
Sal, I will say this: there was one point while I was watching games on Sunday where they scroll on the bottom the rushing leaders. There was one point where Stephen Ridley was still this was like an hour into the first set of games. Stephen Ridley was still on that list, and I almost screenshotted it and sent it to you just for.
Would have been instant delete for me.
But no, I think your point's completely valid, and that is exactly what I was getting at. I just don't see too many guarantees for him, right? He had a guaranteed $14.5 million plus whatever he would have made in his next contract, and or whatever supplement he got from an insurance policy if he got hurt. So I just don't see where this made any financial sense for him to not show up. But I certainly The only smart thing that I can say that I think he did do is not showing up at this point. Like now, now there's no point, right? Now I get it. Like you're going to show up for $5 million and risk any future earnings for only the $5 million? Absolutely not. So
I would take it.
Would you? I would love to see someone pay you $5 million to just to get tackled once. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see you get tackled one time.
I could take a tackle, man.
You think so?
I'm not Steve Marcus.
An NFL tackle?
Hell yeah.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not even concerned. I could take hit. I could take
what
it.
you really need, Sal, is to pull the old Des Bryant and get the $4 million for the one practice. That's the deal for you, I think.
No, I could go for that. Steve left, by the way. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, he's gone.
I felt like I insulted him.
Well, you did, but he's used to that, so
it quickly came back. But yeah, I could get that $4 million for one day from Dez. That's pretty good.
Good day's work. I mean, if you can get it. So I don't really have a lot else in the way of news.
Oh, I got some news, Kevin.
You got some news?
Yeah, have you noticed? Did you hear about this football game that got moved from Mexico to Los Angeles?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Did you hear about this one? Did you hear about this?
Just like there was a game, it was going to be in Mexico, and
chalk this up to the things that I could care absolutely zero about.
Well, one good thing I'll tell you this is the game was moved to LA. The Rams are going to give a substantial amount of tickets to first responders and affected families of the fires that are going on out there. So that's something we definitely want to point out. We always like to say
that's fantastic
when good things are going on. But something that'd be interesting in this game, this was the highest over-under in the history of the NFL originally in this game at 63.5. Steve, you want to get in on this? I know you're big. You looked like you were going to dive in and say something. So
I was just gonna ask what it was because I hadn't heard what it was yet. I hadn't looked at it.
63.5.
That's a lot.
As soon as the word came out that this game may be moved, and I'll read this directly as it was tweeted out by Warren Sharp, a buy order on the under for Kansas City versus Los Angeles Rams in Mexico went out. If the venue is changed, all bets are voided. If it's played and players sit, value to the under. If it's played and field is horrible, value to the under. The line dropped from 63.5 to 62.5. Some books are likely to pull it off the board. I would say now it's probably been pulled off completely, and the numbers will change totally because of the venue relocation, and it now becomes an actual home game for the Los Angeles Rams. So that's very interesting.
I would say the total would probably go up, knowing that it's just in Los Angeles as opposed to Mexico City, where they were both teams were worried about the elevation and all that kind of stuff. They don't have to travel as far now. I think that it will be a benefit to the game, obviously, without having to deal with the field conditions in Mexico City at the field there. That is one thing, but then also all the other factors. I think that it's a good thing all around. A lot of people were worried that they were going to make the players go anyway, that they were going to hold tight, and they were just going to think about the money that they were going to get for having that game there. Good on them for moving it. And I don't even mind that it's in LA, that they get another home game. I like that they're giving the tickets away. Good move all around.
Kevin, you missed quite a huge piece of news.
I did?
Yeah.
Idiot.
Nathan Peterman was released.
Oh, how did I miss that?
And I bring this up because I like to search different social media outlets for good quotes and good statistics and stuff like that. And this one was posted, I believe, by NFL Memes. That's what's listed on there. So if it's theirs originally or not, I'm not sure. It says Aaron Rodgers could throw 1,240 consecutive interceptions on 1,240 straight pass attempts and still have a better career touchdown interception ratio than Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman once threw 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns in a game, and his passer rating went up from 20.8 to 30.7. Nathan Peterman finishes his tenure with the Bills having a lower QB rating than if he simply spiked the ball straight into the ground on every single play of his career.
That's a good one right there.
Is he the worst quarterback to ever play on the center in the NFL?
Yeah, I guess. It's pretty clear, right? I feel bad for the guy. Like, wouldn't you have? Man, I guess You know what I want to look up is let's find out. We joked earlier in the show about like, good gigs to have. Let's see what Peterman made.
Oh, it can't be too much. What was he?
No.
What round was he selected in last year?
I was a 5th round pick, I think.
Mid to late round pick.
He was a 5th. He was number 171 overall.
Poor Steve was trying to say something.
Yeah, he's
right.
Well, he was 171 overall. His total contract value was $2.4 million, and it took him through 2020. So obviously he gets released, but he will. I believe, if I'm correct, all of those rookie deals are they're usually now fully guaranteed. So
he got paid more than I'll make in my lifetime.
Right. He was getting paid $555,000 this year.
Not bad work.
So it's like $1 an interception.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
See what
It
I
all
did there?
makes sense now.
Steve,
It
what
all
were you
makes
trying to
sense
say?
now.
I apologize. Yeah, I cut you off like 6 times.
It's whatever. It happens a lot.
Well,
But I
you're
was
meek.
going to say,
I mean, you're very meek.
do you remember when they started him against the Chargers randomly? When they were a playoff team and they just say, hey, Tyrod Taylor, go ahead and sit. We're going to start Peterman randomly on the road. Here you go.
Yeah, Peterman was the guy, right? He was going to replace Tyrod because Tyrod was, as bad as, I don't know.
He threw
I think
5
Tyrod was a top 15 at that point in the league too.
Yeah, he wasn't even doing bad. They were, like I said, they were a playoff team. And
he threw 4 interceptions in the first half
yeah,
of that game.
why? Just why? Why on earth?
Steve,
Really?
honest question. If you played one half of football at the quarterback position, how many interceptions do you think you would throw?
I'll say less than 4 because I'm not sure I would get 4 passes off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd say 0. I was going to say 0. They would absolutely call run on every play.
100% run
I'd be running the bootleg option like a madman.
out of bounds, 5 yards
Tearing
back.
defenses up. You have no idea, Kevin.
They would hike Steve the ball, and he would immediately run 10 yards backwards at an angle to the nearest out of bounds.
Absolutely not. I'm shifty.
All right. So
one more big piece of news.
of course, the Peterman news was so huge. So let's
It ate up 5 minutes of this podcast.
Let's keep it rolling.
Jackson is now a special assistant in Cincinnati. Hugh Jackson is back in Cincinnati. This guy, he's like the thing that wouldn't die. Hugh
Look,
Jackson.
if anyone actually thought that Hugh Jackson wasn't going to get another position in the NFL, then they're crazy. The guy was a decent coordinator when he was there. He knew how to run the offense. He got more out of Andy Dalton than just about anyone else.
Well, somebody better do something because that team has gone downhill.
Yeah, I'm just saying. He was clearly going to get another job at some point. I didn't think it'd be this season, but I knew he was. I mean, I don't think he should ever be a head coach again. That doesn't mean he can't be a coordinator. We've seen lots of guys be serviceable coordinators that just can't be head coaches.
Question.
Wade Phillips, one of the best coordinators in the league, terrible head coach.
When the Bengals don't make the playoffs this year, and I picked them to make the playoffs, but they're not playing well lately, will either Hugh Jackson or Marvin Lewis be coaching in Cincinnati next year?
Yes. Yes.
Everyone's saying Hugh is there to take over for Marvin Lewis.
God, that would be embarrassing. Marvin Lewis
Also,
has naked pictures of the owner. There's just no question about it.
Who the hell would care?
so does Hugh Jackson.
I
Hugh
don't know.
Jackson's got him as well.
Or maybe
Also-
it's like a sexual harassment thing. Like he knows some sexual harassment dirt on him, and he'll give that out. I don't know what it is.
Is
I
it
ain't touching
possible
that. I ain't touching that one.
Is it possible that Hugh Jackson has pictures of Marvin Lewis naked holding pictures of the owner?
of the owner.
It could
Possible. It is
be. It very
possible.
well could be.
Yeah.
Guys,
Just before, wait. Before we
Steve,
move
go
on,
ahead.
Josh McDaniels, also a coordinator-only crappy head coach. Just had to Kevin.
Yeah. We'll see what happens when he gets his next.
Yeah,
head
of course.
head coaching job.
Second chance for Josh McDaniels.
I do remember another. I do remember another. Head coach that when he got his second chance was quite good. I could think of one of those in history that may be the greatest coach of all time. Just throwing it out there.
Dumb.
Belichick had good years in Cleveland, actually. I think his tenure in Cleveland was underrated. You should go back and look at that.
It's very underrated. He made them a playoff team.
Playoffs.
Who was the last Cleveland coach to do that? I'm pretty sure it was him.
Not Hugh.
Yeah. I don't think anybody since they've been back in Cleveland, right? Guys, two interesting stats from the weekend. The first one is a good one. The Saints now have scored on 66.3% of their possessions. That's the highest rate in the league. To give some perspective, and this comes from Rich Rebar. Give credit to the man who posted this. The 2007 Patriots scored on 57%. The 2017 Falcons on 55.8%. And the 2013 Broncos on 51.1%. They are 9%. They're scoring at a 9% higher clip than that Patriot team that just lit the league on fire.
That just looks terrible. Oh, you're talking about the past Patriot team, the good one.
Kevin, maybe you're the one that's a little upset and jaded.
I'm a little upset. This weekend was rough for my fandom. It was a tough.
Smoked twice by former Patriot coaches or players this year.
Yeah, I have to believe that the Patriots, they all 3 games on the road, 2 of them, all 3 games with against teams with something to prove against the Patriots. I have to believe it was a motivation thing, but there was not a single thing that looked good about that Patriots team this weekend. So
Tom Brady does not look good. I'm going to get into him in a second, but before we move forward, do you know how many points per game? And I know you're not going to know the exact answer, but give me an idea of points per game Tampa Bay was averaging coming into this weekend.
27.2.
What did you say, Steve?
28.2.
I was 28.6.
Wow, Steve.
What can I say? I watch a lot of Tampa Bay football.
Well, that explains your anger. For some inexplicable reason, Dirk Cutter decided to take the play calling away from Todd Monken this weekend. They scored 3 points. Ryan Fitzpatrick was one of the few people in NFL history to pass for 400 yards and 0 touchdowns.
How does Cutter have a job still? How is this happening?
Kevin's upset.
I don't get it. You fire Hugh Jackson. That made sense. Why isn't anyone firing Cutter? He's terrible.
He's got more wins than Hugh Jackson does over his
between
span
him
of
and
it's brutal.
And whoever what's his name in Arizona. I have never seen 2 teams that are just more.
Oh, what's his face? Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, good old Steve Wilkes. Yeah, both coaches terrible. Need to be fired immediately.
Vance Joseph, fire him.
Fire.
Yeah, Vance Joseph, fire him too. Fire everybody. Everybody.
Get rid of him.
All right, guys. While I still have a job, let's move on to some players and some things.
At fanball.com.
Oh, fanball.com. That's right. Yeah. Author page. Check it out. Fanball.com.
But there we go.
Is it fanball.com/Sal? Is that how do they get to your author page?
If you go to the main page on Fanball and you click on any article that you see, if you just click on my name where it says buy, click on my name, it'll take you to my page.
All right, I'm going to do that right now while you're getting into your next topic here.
All right, so we're going to go over some things, some quarterbacks and some running backs, some wide receivers and tight ends. And I'm going to throw a little twist on it. You know, we're going into week 11. Obviously, it's time to start prepping for the playoffs in your fantasy leagues. You're either fighting for your life, you've put yourself in a position you're already in, or you're done. For those people who are fighting for their lives or people who are adjusting their rosters, I'm going to ask at some point, should these players still be on your roster? Are they guys you should get rid of? And who would you prefer over them? All right, so I said Tom Brady has not looked good. On the season, no, Steve comes in with a resounding no. Let me go to the season view because I'm on the last 5 weeks. On the season view, Tom Brady, you have any idea where he ranks overall? Anyone?
14.
I was just looking at it. So
Tom Brady is the 16th overall quarterback, averaging 17.5. And in years past, 17.5 back, that's nice. You like to get a quarterback somewhere at 17 to 20. But Patrick Mahomes is averaging 26.4 points. So Tom Brady comes in at 17.5. Kevin, he's scoring 0.5 points a game more than Blake Bortles. You could realistically have the same production if you had Blake Bortles in your lineup this entire year as opposed to Tom Brady. You're up close. You're a season ticket holder. I'm watching him throw balls into the ground, miss open receivers. Has he finally hit that wall?
I don't think so. And the reason I'll tell you that is because I don't think that their offensive line has been very good. He's getting lots of pressure, and it's resulting in those throws to the ground that you're seeing. There was some crazy reports that he can't throw the ball downfield. I don't think that's true at all. I've seen him throw the ball downfield. He can get the throws out there. He's not. His arm seems fine. He seems physically healthy. The one thing I noticed this year more than any other year I've noticed, and it was kind of like that last year, but even more so this year, he falls down as soon as there's any pressure. Like he does not even try to move around anymore. He immediately, once he knows he's done, that's it. He pretty much just goes right down. The guy's 41 years old. I mean, what do you expect? I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's really not helping him. He was never a mobile guy, but he at least moved around in the pocket a little bit, and he's not doing that at all anymore.
The Eli Manning move. They come in.
And as we saw, when he catches the ball, he automatically goes down.
He goes right down,
trying to run as well. That was rough.
Looks like a broken horse.
Was
you know what they do with broken horses, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm aware. But no, I think that there's issues with the receiving core, and I think there's issues on the offensive line. Edelman looks fine, but Gronk's not out there. Chris Hogan God only knows what's going on with Chris Hogan. I have no idea.
Over the last 5 weeks is the 96th ranked.
Yeah, he's been terrible. He was open a few times in that game, and Brady didn't even look his way, mostly because he couldn't get to that read. But at the same time, he's also the third or fourth read, which tells you something about what they think about Chris Hogan right now. It's just the offense is a mess, and they're on top of all that. Even when they were clicking this year, they were running. They were a running team. They were running the ball more than they ever have. They were using Sony Michel. They were using James White. They were running the ball. So I think, they're managing Brady and trying to keep him healthy, and it's affecting his fantasy viability.
Yeah, and I happen to draft him this year. Falafel, great.
I think your falafel team's doing fine.
Here's
boo-hoo for you, Sal.
Wow. So let's talk about
Steve. You won't be relegated, right? We can get that out of there right now, right?
Well, here's the thing. He's got plenty of points. He's got zapped on plenty of points. Zachary Apples.
Yeah, but the records are even.
But that's what I'm saying. If he slips up and loses a matchup, and he actually has a worse record, it's a bye, Steve.
The good thing for him is when it comes down to playoff time, there is a losers bracket in which he will continuously play people that are
he'll play other losers.
So,
and I'm playing a couple losers after this week as well. I got Gio and L Dog.
Well, you got some. All right, yeah.
I was going to crack open champagne because I'm pretty sure that Kevin, you and I have clinched not being relegated.
Yeah, I believe we have, and I'm pretty sure Steve has clinched not making the playoffs again.
That is correct. I will not be appearing in the playoffs yet again, and for the second year out of 4, I will be fighting for my life to make sure I'm in the league next year.
Were you in the playoffs year 2?
No.
That was the year he was dangerous.
Oh boy, that was the year.
Were you? So you weren't in the play. So you've missed the playoffs 3 out of 4 years.
Correct.
You have been close to relegation now. 2 out of 4.
He's Eli Manning.
Yes, exactly.
He makes the playoffs. He's winning it.
That's yeah.
If I get it, you guys better watch out.
That's it.
Guys, a point per game average 15.9 for Matthew Stafford. That's 22nd in the league if you remove Matt Barkley's 1 game. So 22nd in the league out of guys that have actually played in a certain amount of games. Should Matthew Stafford be owned going into the fantasy playoffs, or is there just too many other guys performing well enough this year that you don't need to worry about Stafford?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I still like Stafford. I mean, I think if you have him on a team and you're this far into the season, it's probably a team that you're playing the matchups, right? And I think that still in certain matchups he might be all right. So I don't think you're ditching him. I mean, if you're starting to consolidate for a playoff push where you're adding an extra defense, if you still play with those stupid things, or if you you want to add some extra depth to your other spots, then fine. But I don't think it hurts to keep him on the roster because there could be some good matchups to be had. So.
Well, in that case, wouldn't he be there for you to scoop up off the waivers for that week? Like, do you need to have him? Or do you think you could play it where you could stream him?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, if you're streaming completely, then sure, go with it. I guess, like, for me, I never really stream quarterbacks in the traditional sense. When I stream a quarterbacks, what I do is like have a couple on my roster, and then maybe I'll change one of those bench quarterbacks out with a different one and, rotate through guys. But I usually will have two on my roster that I can flip-flop and play the matchups with. So in that situation, what I'm thinking is if you have Matthew Stafford and then if I'm one of those types that I have Stafford somewhere, I probably have a guy like Bortles, for example, or I wouldn't because I hate him, or, Phillip Rivers, where you're going to play Rivers most of the time, but there might be a good matchup where I want to get Stafford in there over Rivers.
Stafford scored over 20 points only twice this year. No thanks. At this point of the season, you have to have better options than him. Most teams are past their bye week.
Steve,
you
have
should.
2 wins.
You should.
You have 2 wins on the season, buddy.
Yeah, I got Kirk Cousins, all right? And guess what? He screwed me. He screwed me out of a win against you. Don't bring up Kirk Cousins.
Hey, I had our combined quarterback total for that game was like 13 points, so I don't want to hear it.
I need some help. All right, I need some help, Kevin. No, Matthew Stafford, you don't need him.
All right, Steve, then here's an interesting question because I know Kevin's feelings on this because he has this quarterback in full offer. That's Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is averaging the 28th most points in fantasy football for quarterbacks this year at 13.7. Let's just throw these out there. Alex Smith, 24th overall at 14.8. And Derek Carr, I think, I'll just say it is droppable at 14 points. But Mariota and Alex Smith, Steve, should these guys be on rosters right now? 12-team fantasy football rosters.
Now, Alex Smith, I don't necessarily think so because his average is probably the most consistent average that there is. He just hovers right around that mark each and every week, whereas Marcus Mariota is finally living up to what Kevin had probably hoped he was when he drafted him in all those places earlier this year. He's had 3 games where his point total has gone up, except for, the last, he went 15 and then 22 and then 21. So the last 2 games over 20 points scored. And then he just doesn't have a lot of tough matchups coming up. He's got Indianapolis, which I know Kevin.
Vaunted defense.
I know, save it, which means and Andrew Luck has been so good. Marcus Mariota is just going to have to try and keep up with them there. Then he's got Houston, the Jets, Jacksonville, who's been scorched recently, the Giants, and Washington to finish out the season. I think that Marcus Mariota definitely is somebody that you can probably get, and it would be more valuable with I think a higher ceiling than one Matthew Stafford. So if you had to choose between the two, I'd absolutely take Mariota over Stafford.
Yeah, for me, it's Mariota because the rushing is starting to tick up. I know he only had 2 carries last week, but they were absolutely blowing out the Patriots, so he didn't really need to do too much running. But the week before that, 10 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown, 7 carries for 38 yards the week before that. They're starting to see the things that, as Steve mentioned, the things that really made Mariota a guy that I targeted this offseason. And so in a 16-team league, I'm certainly holding on to Mariota because I have no other better options for sure. But I think I do expect better things from him the rest of the way. So he's a guy I'm not cutting bait on now if you've had him this long.
Okay.
Sal's clearly not paying attention anymore, which is great.
No, you're not cutting bait on him. I get it. But did you answer about Alex Smith, Kevin?
No, I don't care about Alex Smith.
Okay, good. I remember that.
His mom doesn't even have him on her roster.
I remember when he was your lover boy.
I liked Alex Smith. I thought that this was going to be a good match for him going to Washington, particularly with Crowder, who hasn't played. So
Crowder.
I don't like either of them. I don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it. In the words of Steve.
You never liked him. All right, running backs. Let's go on to them. Leonard Fournette returned this week. You guys got Fournette anywhere important?
Nope.
Yeah, the one place where I have him, I'm buried. I'm buried in that league already. Losing him really hurt me. He returned. He handled 80% of the carries. He saw all 6 of the red zone touches and was targeted 5 times on 13 routes run. Over his last 8 fully healthy games, he has averaged 25.1 touches. Todd Gurley currently leads the NFL with 23.8 touches per game. 2 touchdowns this weekend. He looked very healthy.
3 touchdowns.
He had 3 touchdowns. Oh, my God.
1 rushing, 2 receiving.
Do you think that this guy is a top 5 fantasy running back the rest of the way?
I don't. I don't.
So you don't?
No, I'm going to go with no, I don't. He's great when he's on the field. And even this week, 24 carries for 53 yards, really not a great yards per carry. He got 5 catches for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. And a touchdown. It was 2. I'm sorry, Sal. I was looking at the wrong line here. So you were correct. So he had a touchdown receiving and a touchdown rushing. So I just overall the production really wasn't great. Obviously, going up against the Indianapolis defense, we know what that does to running backs. So, but overall, I can't trust him, right? So I don't see him being a top 5 back because I don't see him being healthy for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think that, as long as he's getting the type of usage, he definitely has the potential to be up there. I would say top 10, much more likely, but definitely you're starting him because you've waited so long to get him into your lineup. So you get him in there because you see how much they use him, but that worry is always there that he's going to have a run and he's going to pull up short and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. So yeah, he definitely has that kind of talent and the Jaguars definitely seem to use him like that, but I don't think that his body will allow him to do that. I don't trust it anymore either.
Not to mention, look at the matchups that he has. Pittsburgh is the 5th best team against the opposing running backs. Then you got Buffalo, who is surprisingly middle of the road, I guess, against running backs, but their defense overall has been good. Indy, again, who actually, obviously we joke about Indianapolis. They are middle of the road against running backs, but then you see the Tennessee Titans, Washington, in now you're getting into the playoff territory. So I just, those aren't great matchups. It's a very difficult schedule for running backs, I think. And I don't see him being healthy.
All right, guys. Josh Adams appears to be taking a lead in Philadelphia. Over the last 3 games, his share of the team's carries has gone from 17% to 32% to 44%. Corey Clement has not done what I had hoped he would do this year. Wendell Smallwood was good for a bit.
I like 44% is 7 carries. Just to put it in perspective, the percentages are great. I just, 7 carries.
But the point being, if they're going to decide to run more, right? That wasn't a run-heavy game. Okay,
sure.
They passed.
I agree. I'm not knocking your stats, Sal.
Adams, no, it's fine. They're not my stats. They're actual stats.
They're actual stats.
Is Josh Adams a guy you want to have on your roster going into the playoffs over, say, Isaiah Crowell, who's really fallen off in recent weeks?
Crow had a touchdown this week, didn't he?
Did the Jets score a touchdown?
I don't know.
They did score a touchdown.
Was it last week maybe that I'm thinking of? I don't know. I thought Crow had a touchdown this week, but I could be wrong.
They're not that good over there.
I'll say yes. I would rather have Josh Adams because he's on at least he's on an offense that moves down the field and gets
an actual
the
offense.
end zone, and they put up points, not necessarily through running the ball consistently, but to have an opportunity to be on a team that does move the ball, that's got a quarterback like Carson Wentz that can move the ball, that can move the chains, keeps drives going, gives him more opportunity. if he's the guy getting the ball closer to the red zone as well. I think that it's just a matter of time before he starts getting some touchdowns. So, yeah, I think that he's definitely worth a stash at the end of your bench heading into the playoffs. You never know when a potential injury could pop up, and you need somebody that is at least getting the bulk of their opportunity.
Let me ask you this. Do you guys think that that number will creep up higher than 44%, or do you think that's kind of the max we're going to see him going forward?
No, I think he becomes their early down back in the offense. I do, and I've heard them come out and say that he needs to get more work, and he will be getting more work. So I think it could get somewhere around 50%.
You get 50%. Is that what, Steve? What about you?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It's not, 44% is only 7 carries. So only needs like 2 more carries to get like 50%, right?
Yeah, I can see where he's getting 10 a game,
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely.
They're going to be passing a lot because they're just not good right now. They really aren't. I mean,
their defense isn't great. They're not
Super
stopping
Bowl
anybody.
hangover is pretty damn clear.
I guess my point is, so they've rushed the ball, 224 times attempts this year. They've played 9 games, so forgive me because I'm not really very good at math, but that would be 24 times a game, right? Sure. Even if he gets to 50, you're talking about most 10 to 12 carries a game, right? I think he's better than Crowell, and he's a guy you may want to have on the end of your bench, but I don't see where I'm starting him anywhere.
All right, let me ask you this question. Jamal Williams. Should Jamal Williams be owned by anybody?
Cut him. Just cut him.
Other than an Aaron Jones owner as a handcuff. Go ahead, Steve.
That is where I would own him. If I own Aaron Jones, I would own Jamal Williams as a handcuff. Yes.
Let me ask you, Steve. Wait, before you go further, I'd like to refute that with this question.
Okay.
If you own Aaron Jones,
yes,
do you really need Jamal Williams as a handcuff to Aaron Jones? I got to imagine that you have other running backs on your team because Aaron Jones is a guy that's just starting to get going, right?
But I
don't know that what we've seen based on earlier parts of the season when Aaron Jones wasn't even in the offense, what we've seen from Jamal Williams, that he's really going to be that much more effective than anyone else you have on your bench. So do you really need to roster Jamal Williams as a handcuff to Aaron Jones?
I think it would be smart because at this point, if you were to lose Aaron Jones and you are relying on him in any capacity, even if it's just as a flex spot right now, then Jamal Williams with Aaron Jones, if he were to get injured, and Ty Montgomery not being on the team anymore, he's going to get a bulk of the volume in Green Bay. He's going to get a lot of work. So, yeah, I think that would hold value.
Here's a real life scenario for you. I have a 12-team regular league. Here's my home league, Steve. I have Aaron Jones, right? My running backs in that league consist of, as I mentioned, Aaron Jones, Melvin Gordon, Adrian Peterson, Kenyon Drake, and Doug Martin. So maybe I'll give you, I would cut Doug Martin, maybe.
How dare you, sir?
but honestly, for me, that's even a maybe. I don't even know that I would do that. Would you replace any of those guys with Jamal Williams?
I think I would probably start, or I think it's closer to think that Jamal Williams with no Aaron Jones or Ty Montgomery in the picture is equal to an Adrian Peterson week in and week out.
Equal to Adrian Peterson week in and week out.
At this point, yeah.
Peterson's been incredibly effective, for as much as I hate to say that, because
it's been a little up and down lately, though.
Little up and down lately. He had one low, couple of low weeks where he got 5
Falcons
points.
Defense that, by the way, I saw something posted today where I don't think anybody scored less than 20 and a lot of people in the 30s to running backs, and he had like a 6-point something against them, which was a bad showing. But hey, I don't want to talk bad about AP. That's my guy. It's my dog.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of 3 weeks, he's been over 10 points every single week. He's had weeks of 27.5, 28.8, 31 this season. There's no way I think Jamal Williams is going to be that effective, because he wasn't. Did he have any games like that in the first 3 weeks of the season without Aaron Jones?
No, he didn't. No, he did not. But I'm just saying, I think at this point, I'm saying I think at this point of the year, if knowing things were different at the beginning of the season, I think that he would hold some value. I think it would be smart to have him on the end of your bench. if you have Aaron Jones. I'm just saying.
All right.
Aaron Jones, by the
Agree?
way, hit
Disagree.
Aaron Jones hit
Agreed.
21.33 miles per hour on that 67-yard run, the fastest any Packers running back has run in over 3 years. And he finished 42-14 on snaps to Jamal Williams and was in on 100% of the RB targets, or received 100% of the
He's
targets.
very fast.
Is good. Guys,
Good.
David Johnson is alive and well in
Son of a
Arizona.
bitch.
David Johnson has averaged 6.5 targets and 63 receiving yards in the 2 games under Byron Leftwich as the offensive coordinator. He averaged only 4.2 and 23.7 receiving yards with Mike McCoy there. He set his season highs in rushing yards, 98, receiving yards, 85, and catches 7. Is he back? Is he legit? Can we expect this going forward? Is this lock him in? He's my guy. I'm not worried. I think you're locking him in anyway. You spent too high of a draft capital on him. But what say you, Kev?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I really
Great.
don't.
Thanks.
Steve, why don't you take this one? While I collect my thoughts.
Is there something wrong? Did David Johnson hurt you in some way?
I'm irritated with him because I didn't put him in this week, and it's my own fault. It has nothing to do with him. Wasn't him. It was me, and I'm still irritated. I can't get. Yeah, he's locked in anyway because he's been locked in the whole season. The only reason I had him on my bench was because it was his bye week, and then I didn't put him back in because it's stupid dynasty league that I didn't have. I have too many freaking leagues, and I can't pay attention to all
Kevin
of them.
Came into the boxing chat upset that he forgot to set players in lineup.
Son of a. Sorry.
Guess it
anyway.
was David Johnson.
Yeah, it's David Johnson. You're gonna put him in anyway. Have you sat him at all this year, Steve?
Never. No, you don't ever sit him.
So
I did 1 week.
And no,
yeah,
I think
how'd that work out for you, Sal?
It wasn't good.
Yeah. Who did you sit him for again?
I'm trying to remember who it was right now. I'm struggling to remember, but it didn't go well.
Remember, you can find Sal's landmines on fanball.com.
Yes, David Johnson's always been in there, and yes, he's continuing to be in there. A lot of people thought that with Byron Leftwich taking over as the offensive coordinator, that he was going to see an uptick in usage. That has happened, and look at the results. What do you know? David Johnson's pretty good at football, and the results are showing on the field. So yeah, continue to get him in there. I know a couple of weeks ago, everyone tried to, we talked about it on the show about how easy his schedule was getting and how running back friendly the defenses were that he was going to be facing. So, yeah, we're kind of just seeing what we expected to see. I hope that you were able to take advantage of that, everybody. You're welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
Wow.
I'm going to say.
Guys,
Steve out.
Before we move on from running backs, Chris Thompson, is this a guy that we're holding on to, hoping that he comes back and is effective later in the season, or can you effectively drop Chris Thompson from your rosters at this point?
I would drop Chris Thompson for Jamal Williams.
I appreciate that.
Kevin, Jamal
That's a small
Williams,
consolation.
Kevin, Jamal Williams or Austin Eckler the rest of the way?
Eckler, hands down, no question about it.
Eckler
without Gordon would be 10 times more effective than Jamal Williams without Aaron Jones. 10 times.
I don't disagree with that at all.
10
Sorry,
times?
I don't mean to be yelling at you, Steve.
I don't disagree, but it's the same premise.
No, it's not. It's not. Melvin Gordon is a top 5 player. Aaron Jones, maybe. He's very good.
Just wait.
And Eckler's been serviceable with Melvin Gordon.
Over the last week, Aaron Jones is a top 10 running back.
All right, guys.
Beat that logic. That's it. Let's move on. Can't beat that.
We mentioned the sad news about Cooper Kupp earlier in the show. ACL is torn. He is gone. That will open up 17% of the Rams' targets, 17% of their air yards, and 22% of their end zone targets. Without Kupp,
Josh Reynolds.
Well, without Kupp in weeks 7 to 8, Robert Woods ran 61% of his routes from the slot, which is where Kupp normally runs them from. So I think we could look at Woods to get the biggest uptick. Yes, in the 2 games that Cooper Kupp missed earlier this year, Reynolds played on 120 of 129 snaps, but he got only 10% of the target share. So he had that 2-touchdown game, right? We remember that was nice. And as I said on the show that week, don't pick him up because Kupp was coming back, and it did. It's Tuesday. We're recording this on Tuesday. You might not be hearing it till Wednesday. Was Reynolds a guy you rushed to add on your waivers tonight, Steve?
He was not. There were other people on waivers that I feel a little more comfortable with and heading into this next week, and based on performances that they had that looked like they might be turning the corner, but might not necessarily be available. Rashad Penny, Corey Davis were a couple of those guys that had found their way to the waiver wire. But like you just said, Josh Reynolds is a guy that when Cooper Kupp was out, stepped in, got a lot of usage, was on the field quite often. So he's absolutely somebody that you should add is speculatively towards the end of your bench heading into this playoff run. He's somebody that he's on a high-powered offense. We know how much they use the 3 wide receiver sets in LA. So I think that he's somebody that you could definitely add on there and see what happens. And you never know what could happen with, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, one of those guys could end up getting injured as well. And that would just mean even more kind of target share for him. So yeah, absolutely. I think you should look at picking him up.
Yeah, Steve, I also got pooed on by Andy Dalton in a few places this weekend. I started him over Russell Wilson in the league.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, he's going against New Orleans, right? I mean, the matchup was there.
Yep.
The wide receivers, this is how the snap breakdown broke in the first game without A.J. Green. Tyler Boyd, 41 of the 43. John Ross, 36. Then Cody Core, who I didn't know was a human, 20. Alex Erickson, 16. And Auden Tate, 7. I don't think we need to worry about the last 3 guys there, right? Tyler Boyd, who we thought would just have an unbelievable day, he was tied for his fewest targets on the season with only 4. And Ross scored the touchdown early. I thought, look at me, here we go. He had a nice day, right? Because he had a couple of decent catches and that touchdown. With A.J. Green out of that offense, it's just not. I mean, the threat isn't there. Is Tyler Boyd not as valuable now? Why not?
You know what? Matthew Berry's right. The Bengals fuck you. There's just no other way to say it. He's absolutely right. It was terrible.
My favorite thing is John Ross scores a touchdown, and Sal's first thought is, "Hey, look at me! Look what I did."
Right, of course, it's all about Sal.
Well, he was my sleeper on
fanball.com. Oh man, no. Listen, there's no reason for that game should have gone the way that it did. Even when they got down as bad as they did, you thought, all right, well, New Orleans defense against the pass still sucks, and they have to throw it now. You thought for sure it was
garbage time.
Yeah, it was going to be, yeah. And then
some guy Driscoll runs a touchdown and from 40 yards out, a quarterback named Driscoll.
But you know what? It's okay. They brought Hugh Jackson back in, so everything will be solved.
That's right. We all know that Cleveland's offense isn't what's been holding them back all these years, right?
Right. It's
right.
Guys, just an interesting stat. Corey Davis has been targeted on 31% of Marcus Mariota's 203 attempts this season, and only DeAndre Hopkins has a higher target share in the entire NFL at 31.6%. So what's the likelihood that Corey Davis is the league winner down the stretch here?
Yes.
Kevin?
Corey Davis is great. He's a phenomenal receiver. Some of the things I got to watch him closely this weekend, obviously watching the Patriots game, and he's just a very talented guy, excellent body control, makes incredible catches, good routes, very clean. He gets open, great separation. So I just don't see how he's not utilized and continues to be utilized like this over the remainder of the season. They don't really have anyone else that is really taking targets away from him either. Jonnu Smith got targeted a bunch this past weekend, and you see some of the other guys that are in there, but there's really no one that's stepped up to be the guy next to him that takes too many targets away. So yeah, he's gonna continue to get volume, and I think you'll see more and more touchdowns as this season goes on.
And I actually agree with that. We talked about Marcus Mariota a little bit ago, and the beneficiary of him getting more and more points, throwing touchdowns, getting more yardage, all of that type of stuff is going to be Corey Davis with getting the target share, as Sal just read. And I actually want to ask you guys about a trade that I just had in the league that I'm actually getting a little of a pushback about. And so I need your guys'
Pushback
thoughts
how?
on
They're telling
this
you it shouldn't have gone through?
It's multifaceted, and I think it's all bullshit, but I need to make sure that I'm not just okay, I'm in first place in this league. I'm 9-1. I just made a trade with someone who
It's a 4-team league with your family?
It is a 12-team full PPR. And I just made a trade with a team that as of this last week, they lost. They're no longer in the playoffs. Now, last week, I had made the same exact offer, and he said that if I lose this week, I'll accept the trade. And I said, okay, whatever. And then he lost this week. I accepted the trade. Trade was I gave up James White, Doug Baldwin, and Corey Davis, and I got Melvin Gordon in return.
James White, read the 3 players again. James White,
Doug Baldwin, and Corey Davis in a full PPR.
And what did you get?
I got Melvin Gordon.
Seems fair to me. I mean, value-wise, I guess it's about right. It's just
you have to value it off of what James White is doing this season. James White is a top 10 PPR running back.
And so I've gotten a text message from the commissioner saying, what reason does my trade partner have to make this trade? He's out of the playoffs.
I see, now that I get, right? I mean, that's why you have a trade deadline, which I'm assuming is probably this week, right?
It's the same day as it is for most of the default ESPN.
Yeah, so either this week or next week or whenever it is, coming up. So it's coming up soon, right? But that's why you have a trade deadline. So the teams are out of the playoffs, can't change the league. And what I would say to him is, as the commissioner, if you feel like this is something that can possibly occur and there is an issue, then move the trade deadline up and see what happens. I'm going to guess your league mates are all going to push back on that because nobody wants that. Everyone likes longer trade. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, I think it's a fair trade. I don't think there's any issues with it for sure. I think the guy's getting, you said James White, which is a starting running back to replace Melvin Gordon, right? He's getting Corey Davis, which I think will finish the season at worst as a wide receiver too. And then for the remainder of the season. And then what was the third guy again?
Doug Baldwin.
So who has been terrible this season for the most part, but we all know that, the Seahawks are a second half team and they could end up, we could see some more volume down the stretch with Russell Wilson starting to play better.
I think the bigger issue that people are having is that me being first in the league, have just traded with someone not in the playoffs and have gotten someone that is going to make my team better.
Yeah, you're a Hornswoggle.
But is that enough to not let the trade go through? Or what?
What was the reasoning for the guy who's not in the playoffs, who's statistically eliminated, to make the trade?
He didn't. I don't know. I didn't ask him why he wanted to make the trade. I didn't ask him why.
To Kevin's point, there's a trade deadline and everybody's eligible to trade before that deadline. The deal is not a clear collusion deal. It's not collusion. The value is there. Whatever the reason is, this guy wants the players, whether he likes those players, he wants to finish the year out playing those players in his lineup, whatever. It's one of those things in fantasy football that you have to live with.
I'll tell you, it's one of the reasons that I like dynasty football more than anything else. And like redraft, I get, but most redraft leagues don't have a set of bylaws, right? They just kind of go with whatever's on the site. Maybe you make some tweaks, but you don't have bylaws. This is something that you would write in the bylaws, right? Because I don't think there's a setting on ESPN. Maybe there is. I'd have to check. But what you want to do is eliminate trading for statistically eliminated teams and tell them then we should, if that's the case, then they should talk about it next year as a rule change.
Yeah, rules should always be implemented before the following season. You should never implement rules mid-season that can benefit one and hurt another. Absolutely not.
I'm prepared to fight.
Fight it out, Steve. You're in the right this time.
All right, guys, a couple more wide receivers I want to touch on here that have performed poorly over the last 5 weeks. And these guys rank average points per game 50 or lower over the last 5 weeks. Coming in at 51, Kevin, this hurts me as much as you. John Brown, averaging only 8.6 points a game.
That's rough.
What is the reason for this? Is it Flacco? Is all roads lead back to Flacco?
All roads lead back to Flacco, and that team just struggles all around now. There is really no offensive weapon on the team at all that is making any kind of headway anywhere, and it's got to be Flacco related. I think it's time to see Lamar Jackson and let it fly a little bit, see what happens. But I don't know if the hip's going to be bad enough that they'll actually pull the trigger and let that happen. But they really should, because the guy, is ruining fantasy for everyone else, and that's really all they should care about.
He's destroying fantasies worldwide. Number 52, a guy I thought that would be a top 5 wide receiver this year, averaging 8.4 points a game, Jarvis Landry. In the mess that has become the Cleveland Browns.
Speaking of which,
excuse me.
Wait. Speaking of which,
Atlanta Falcons.
Just to be clear, I want to make a mention, since we were talking about Corey Davis and we are now talking about Jarvis Landry. Just want to point out that in half-point PPR on a points per game basis, do you know who was ahead of Jarvis Landry?
I mean, it's got to be Corey Davis, right? Right.
Kevin, is not even remotely obvious.
Just throwing it out there. I was mocked for my prediction, so let's just.
I think the thing was that you said he would finish higher than him, and I said he would be 5th, and you thought he'd be better than that. And
listen, all I said was he'd be higher than Jarvis Landry. It's your fault you put him 5th. I didn't.
Shut up. The aforementioned Doug Baldwin comes in as the 59th overall wide receiver, averaging 8 points in the last 5 weeks. Steve.
Yeah.
Rest of season, who would you rather have on your roster? Tyler Lockett or Doug Baldwin? I didn't ask Kevin for a reason.
Yeah, I know he'd pick Tyler Lockett. I'm sure he'd still pick Tyler Lockett, but I think I'm going to switch it to Doug Baldwin. And I think that Russell Wilson, we've seen it the last couple of weeks. This is when he really starts to turn it on for the Seahawks. He really starts getting it done, even on the ground. We saw him rushing the ball quite a bit last week. So I think that will help open things up in the passing game. I think Doug Baldwin has been getting better slowly but surely, and I think that he'll find the end zone a few more times down the stretch here. So I think that Doug Baldwin will eke it out over Tyler Lockett, but that's not to knock Tyler Lockett by any means. He's been healthy throughout the course of the year, and he's been very solid. So I can't knock him at all. That's right.
Seven touchdowns more than Doug Baldwin. You know how many Doug Baldwin has?
Zero.
That's got to change.
Kevin, I meant to ask you this when I brought up John Brown. Rest of the season, Marquez Valdez-Scantling or John Brown?
Can you tell me whether or not they bench Flacco?
He's going to turn him. He's going to turn on him so quick.
Let's say Lamar Jackson goes in this week.
And if it's Lamar Jackson, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I think I'm probably still taking Valdez-Scantling, if you will.
I will.
He's looked great. What concerns me about Valdez-Scantling is the fact that, with Cobb out, he obviously sees an uptick in production. Does that dip back down a little bit when Cobb's healthy again and returns to the lineup, or is Aaron Rodgers, as we know, moves on to a receiver and then he's part of the family, and he's obviously all of a sudden get all kinds of targets? I just that's what makes me nervous about him. John Brown, I think, will be the number one option in an offense that may or may not ever move the ball, but at least he's the number one option.
Do you know who will be the starting number 3 wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers Thursday night?
Equanimeous St. Brown?
It is Mr. St. Brown. That is correct. So get your Equanimeous, boys and girls. Kenny Golladay comes in as the 63rd overall wide receiver over the last 5 weeks, averaging 7.5 points a game. That's not very good.
It's not good. It's not good at all.
Not very good at all. Kevin and Steve, both of you.
What?
Rest of the season, Deshaun Jackson or Kenny Golladay?
Yuck.
Golladay.
Yeah, I'll take Golladay, but I'm not happy about it.
I'm not happy about either of them. I have made a case for Deshaun Jackson being in the lineup as I forget who we were debating. It might have even been on a different show at this point, to be honest with you. But I have made the case for Deshaun Jackson, but in against Galladay, I think Galladay will produce. I just talked about how Stafford, I think, is a guy that you can have on your roster. And, if he's a guy that I think you can have on your roster, Galladay is the guy that's probably going to produce, although Marvin Jones has looked pretty good off and on as well. So
he's going to miss some time, though.
Is he out?
I'm pretty sure I heard he was going to miss some time. They were worried about an MCL injury, and it looks like he's avoided any type of surgery, but he might be missing some time.
Let's go back, and I will say, hands down, it is Kenny Galladay.
So it's a bone bruise.
Yes.
And I don't think the time will be significant, but probably a week.
So Steve's wrong again.
Well, no, he's
One
right.
week
There
is
was
some
an
time.
injury, and it is time.
Didn't you say significant time?
No, absolutely
Check the
not.
tape.
Oh, we will.
Guys, last wide receiver. This was a guy who, Kevin was flip-flopping in there all over the place earlier in the year. I liked him a little bit too. I own him in some places. He has been downright awful the last few weeks, and that is Taylor Gabriel. Over the last 5 games, he has only 15 receptions for 233 yards and 0 touchdowns. He is the 77th overall wide receiver, 6.3 points a game. Is he droppable at this point, Steve?
I would think so. And what's funny about Taylor Gabriel is that we talked about him when he had his big stretch of, I think he had 2 games in a row of over 100 yards. I didn't buy it, but it was mostly because I didn't buy Mitchell Trubisky, and Mitchell Trubisky has actually still been consistently really good for fantasy over the last few weeks, even without a Taylor Gabriel. So I don't think Taylor Gabriel is necessary to own on your fantasy team any longer, especially with Allen Robinson coming back and with Kevin's other lover boy, Anthony Miller, getting a lot of play. So I don't think that Taylor Gabriel is very necessary for fantasy for the remainder of the year.
I do love that Loverboy has become a thing on this show.
It's very awkward and uncomfortable, but I do love Anthony Miller.
Don't fight it.
Best receiver in Chicago.
I won't doubt that. I won't fight that either.
Mitch Trubisky, by the way, number 7th overall quarterback on the season.
Yeah.
He has been good for more than just the last few weeks.
He's been really good the last few weeks, though.
Well,
I just vomited a little bit there.
Evan's so excited. I don't know what happened.
It's gross.
Guys, let's wrap up the tight ends here. Jack Doyle, 48 of 55 snaps, 11 from the slot or wide, and 3 targets, 0 touchdowns. Eric Ebron has the strangest game I think I've ever seen for a tight end. 21 snaps, 12 slot or wide, 3 targets, 3 touchdowns. One of them was rushing. And guys, do you know who easily, watching these 3 guys, who's easily the best tight end athlete on that team is? It's Mo Alley Cox.
Mo Alley Cox.
This guy is a freak. That guy, I would keep an eye on that guy. Maybe not this year, but in a year or so.
Cue up the old Michael Roberts prediction here.
That guy is big and freaky strength. It's interesting.
He'll be fat in 4 years.
It works for Antonio Gates.
Rich.
And I think George Kittle is a guy who Steve was probably the earliest one on this show on him. I do know that we all like him at this point. Great
question anytime anyone says Steve got something right.
Great little clip of him going and making sure he shook hands with every single service person on the field in the game last night on Monday night. George Kittle is gaining 2.66 yards per route run, the best clip among tight ends by a wide margin. Kittle ranks 4th among all receivers in yards per route run in the entire league, behind only Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, and Deshaun Jackson.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
I watched that game last night. He's always open.
Yep.
The only time he doesn't get the ball is when they for some reason don't. He's literally open on every play. I don't know how he does it.
In the middle of the field, open.
They have no other receivers, and yet somehow he's always open. I don't get it.
Kevin, rest of the season. Play without a tight end or Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, that's just mean.
Don't those things equal each other at this point?
Look, I think a lot has been made about Rob Gronkowski and how bad it is, and it is bad. But I think there's no question they're saving him for the end of the season. you have to figure out when he's going to play, but he'll be in those games now, especially now that they're 7-3. The rest of these games are going to matter for the Patriots for sure because they're in a battle for home field and things like that. So he's going to be on the field at some point, most likely after the bye week, and they're going to use him. I think that Gronk's going to be fine when he's out there. He hasn't looked great. I think the rest probably has helped, and there's a reason they did it. I think you'll see a different Gronk down the stretch.
Guys, you winning any money?
No.
Not really.
Well, you need to go to QE. To QE.
To QE? To QE? To QE.
Oh, Elliot, if you're listening, I'm sorry. to the Quan Edge. Their betting tool is picking winners at a 660 percentage. I mean, that is
Steve, that's 66%.
How insane is that, Steve?
That's good. That is good. Anything over 60% is great. So if you're getting 2 out of every 3 bets right, you are winning money. Lots of it.
Yeah, you could go check out that betting tool for $6 for 5 days, or you could just take our word for it, plunk down your money, use code FFFunhouse, and save yourself some dollar bills off the first month. Do it now, guys. They're winning people money as well as DFS. Check them out, the chats, the podcasts, the articles, the tools. It's all great stuff, and you should check them out.
Yeah, you could check them out, and then you could head over to mybookie.com and put those, what they say, right down, mybookie.com.
Well, before you go to either, you go to fanball.com and you check out Sal's author page and whatever landmines he has for the week.
Which we now believe to be fanball.com/Sal.
That's right. That's right.
It may be.
It's a direct link.
I'm going to go direct link.
Fanball.com/Sal. That's definitely going to send people to something that they don't want to see. I guarantee that's happening, but you know.
I'm sure we can get Scott to put something great up at that web address there.
God, Steve, wrap it up. You talk so much.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FFFunhouse. You can check out Facebook, Instagram, and of course, www.fantasyfootballfunhouse.com, where you can find any of the past episodes that you might have missed of this wonderful podcast, and of course, all of the current ones as well. So, Sal, you can go ahead now.
Bad news. I just tried both of those. Nothing comes up.
Yet.
Guys, I got to tell you, I should have told you this at the start of the show, maybe before the show started. Make sure you're looking your best when you come on the show from now on, because I took a lovely lady out to dinner on Saturday night.
Oh, she watching? I saw we had a viewer earlier.
She told me that she watched the show.
Oh.
And you know what she told me right before I came on? We did not have any capacity.
That I was the most handsome of the 3?
She told me that she had her lady friends from work also tune in and watch.
Whoa.
So
hello.
There's an uptick in ladies watching the show. So shout out to you, Cindy, if you're watching or listening. Hello. And that's it, guys. I have nothing else.
Since I feel obligated, I'm married. I love my wife. I don't know.
Good for you, Kevin.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to any lady that goes out with Sal. That kind of charity is the type of charity that we talk about week in and week out on this program. So if you are in a ladies league, you should get any one of your league mates to date Sal, and that's a good way to add charity to your fantasy playing experience. So until next time, we'll be back later in the week with a show to talk about the upcoming games. And until then, I don't know. That's it.
Kevin's funny.